Right, let's get this stern light welded on, because that's only taken way too long. Today I'm going to be wearing my sexy safety leotard because I'm dangling over the side, cutting this piece of stainless bar off that was welded on ages ago, taking this seatbelt off, replacing that, getting rid of this strap. That's an old, it's a long story, but it's an old safety that I put on there that's coming off. And the goal is to weld this guy here onto the top so that we can bolt our stern light onto the back of this A-frame and then start running our cables all the way forward to the wheelhouse. We're a Kiwi couple living in Australia who brought a 57-foot steel trawler after she sunk in a flood and was pulled from the sea. We're now bringing her back to life. We're on to the finishing jobs after working on her for the last 6 years to refit and get her ready for launch as soon as possible. Brupeg is rebuilt by us with volunteers funded by Patreons and viewers, and we spend every cent we have to make sure that she's ready. She's fueled by veggie oil, diesel, solar and wind power to do research, projects and expeditions to remote places like Antarctica and the Northwest Passage. She'll be crewed by supporters from around the world. Welcome aboard. This is the sexy changing scene. Now it's important when you're doing this sort of work on your boat, you want to make sure that you're as high as you can get and it's the windiest day of the week. Perfect opportunity to do a bit of grinding and also a bit of TIG welding. Right, I think we'll start by untying the safety. Lovely! This A-frame is made out of 304 stainless and I'm going to be welding a piece of 304 flat panel onto it, so I'll be using 309 wire. Right, well that was the earth that I really needed. What I've got is a curved base and a relatively flat plate that I'm welding on. Obviously the fit up at the ends is not great, touches in the middle but the ends are pretty rubbish. So what I've done is just tacked it in the middle and then built the corners up, and I'll just keep filling those up, weaving along all the way, get a decent weld. I don't need to do one weld across the whole length, I could probably just do like half an inch, and that would be enough to hold it. The wind's coming that way and I'm trying to push my argon uphill if I'm having to weld in the wind. I've found with a bit of planning, i.e. waiting for a gust to drop off, you can weld in about 15 to 18 knots of breeze. Just pick your moment. This plate is going to bend backwards over time when that cools down. So probably in 20 minutes I'll come up, just give it a smack with a hammer on this side and it'll push it back to being straight. I won't worry about trying to get it perfect right now. This old seatbelt has to come off. I use these as a fall arrestor. So this winch on the back here is an 800 kg winch, or 800 capable, allegedly. I don't normally run it more than maybe 200 kg, just because I doubt that it can do 800. However, we use this to lift Jess up and down, so that's partly why it's overrated. The other side of it is, if that cable on the winch breaks, Jess is going to plummet to the ground. So I put this on, and it's a fall arrestor essentially, so this takes up the slack and this is more than strong enough to hold her. We've done a few tests on this so far just to basically, you know, drop this and let this take it up. Does it fine. Because it runs simultaneously, it retracts and goes in and out as needed. It doesn't, this winch, if it does break, it doesn't do a dramatic fall. It's only sort of not even 6 inches. So it's pretty, oh you annoying thing. Yeah, vernier calipers. What have we got there? Oh, it's Imperial. Much better. Quite grubby living in the yard. You can sort of see that amount of dust and stuff that comes off the sandblasters. If you look at that aerial, you may not see it against the light, but it basically gets progressively darker and darker as it gets towards that tip. On this side, the camera on this side, perfectly white. It's all coated with sandblasting bay. Just over the back there where we were a while back, they're blasting a yacht in there at the moment. Right, I've got to get cables that come from this area of the boat and work their way along the centre line here and then into the roof above me over there. So what my plan is rather than putting, like, say, cable trays or something that's a bit ugly and manky, I've got two wires. I don't have any, you know, dramatic wiring needs down this end of the boat. So I'm going to use these stainless P-clamps with a rubber sheath over the top. I've got some M5 bolts, just tiny little bolts. I'm going to basically weld them in like that, as essentially as a stud, and then I can bolt these guys on and just run the wire down neatly. It's pretty easy, just every, I don't know, 300 mil, something like that, I'll put in a P-clamp and we should have a nice neat solution.
It's not love, but it's the best I can do. What you get is what you see in plain view. You want honest, here it is, sad but true. It's not love, but it's the best I can do. On such short notice.
Finished product welded on, just a row of studs so that we can bolt these little guys on. So these are stainless P-clamps with a rubber sheath, nice and protected, and they'll last a long time out in the open. So before I get carried away and finish off that stainless welding, I need to make sure that I've got a drop saw. We gave our drop saw away a long time ago, but I need to build a battery box for our insurance list, and part of that is getting a drop saw so that we can get really accurate 45-degree cuts. That one looks really nice. That doesn't. That one looks medium. That's getting better. Oh yeah, we're going with the cheapie. Right, saw brought a couple of small grinding discs in case I run out, and some little cleany doodackies. Let's get into this work. Back on the boat, the rain had settled in, so it was kind of a good thing that we were working underneath this roof today. So the cable glands we're using are stainless cable glands, exactly the same size as what we put in for the port and starboard up on the wheelhouse roof. They're an M12 thread. So we're going to stick them side by side and split our two conductors, so we've got a nice round cable going through a cable gland, easy to seal up at that point. The cable I'm using is a big sort of circular coil. Rather than chop this in half and just assume that that's going to work, what I'm going to do is feed each end, so obviously two ends. I'm going to feed it from the inside of the boat out, work its way up to where the light's going to be, give myself half a metre extra or whatever up by the light, and then start strapping it all down onto this beam that we've just welded those studs onto. And then tonight I can start feeding it all the way through up into the wheelhouse. We have some DIN rail boxes up on the roof of Brupeg at the back. So these ones here are for our solar. So that basically disconnects our solar. And then we have this spare one here, which is going to be for our shore power and a few other things. I can't remember, I have to look at the wiring diagram as to exactly what's up in here. But we have a cable gland here for our shore power that hasn't been fitted yet. And then we have our two that we've just fitted now. So we're going to string the cables through there and run them out the back of the boat.
Stroll downtown this evening when I heard music echo through the night. The same old songs that I heard the night before. So I started running so I wouldn't be too late. I didn't think that I would ever see your face again, but I was wrong. Yeah, I was wrong.
There we go. Weather tight and held down. I need to get the conduit on, but that can all be done later. And then our cable run is ready to start wiring.
To the beat that was blasting through the the night. And on the street the crowd was jumping, singing songs and dancing through the night. I didn't think that I would ever see your face again, but I was wrong. I can't believe we're dancing in the street. All I ever wanted was to get close to you. Now I'm burning up in your atmosphere. I can't feel my feet while we're dancing in the street, in the neon light. Let the music on repeat all through the night.
Now that I've got the cable running along that conduit all the way along that wall there, what I want to do is bring it up to the switch, and I've just figured out a simpler path. Rather than going that way, I'm going to go that way. If I go that way, I add about 4 meters because I've got to do ups and downs and rounds and corners. If I go this way, I can tuck it over to the wall like that, come across the wall here, basically to the bottom of the dash, and go across the dash over to the switch, which is just over the back there. So it's a much shorter, easier, cleaner path, but I need to create something along here that is yeah, going to hold that cable. So I'm going to put some cable tray in there just with some rivets onto these ribs here. I have to mark this section out on the polystyrene because if you see down here, the rib itself is 50 millimeters and polystyrene is 60 mil, so you've got this 10 mil gap, and if I want to put anything up hard up against here, I have to allow for that. This is also coming out another 60 mil, so if I stick, there we go, that's the full width of our insulation. So if I come back there, you can sort of see there's a fair whack of insulation that's going in here. So this wiring will be buried down low inside the wall. Now people often wonder about using polystyrene. This is a fire rated polystyrene, so I don't know what's in it, but it does not catch fire, it doesn't smoke, it doesn't do anything crazy. I tested this by trying to set fire to some to see what it did, and it just literally smolders away and disappears like off to the side away from the fire. So it's pretty awesome.
To fade out, the first rays of sunlight lit up your eyes. Oh, how I wish this.
Right, cable run around the side here. You can see it sort of weaves its way over the back. We've still got to tidy up a lot of this, but we're getting more and more tidier over here. So we've got our cable runs basically working our way down. These are our earths, so there's multiple joins under here, but they're all, I'm happy with all of them. They've got lots of heat shrink over everything. They're nicely crimped. We've got one large earth, then it joins into a bunch of, goes down progressively smaller. Down here, this is a positive block, so we've got our power feed for the switch as well as the return, and they come and work down into this here. There's too many wires to be able to join up easily, so I put them into a power block. That's a positive, so we've got a lid that goes over top of that. I need to knock out these little back parts, but basically knock that out so I can stick that over and protect it from anything shorting out on it. This bundle of wires here that we CGI'd out last week, that's getting moved across so that everything runs on this fuse block here. This was all a temporary thing. You can sort of see there's lots of inline fuses. We had them set up just so that everything was protected, but it was scary looking at it. That's going. So we're getting there. Everything is starting to get more and more cleaned up as we move along. But what I want to show you about this here, when you've got like an open connector like this and you need to put a wire in, rather than just stripping a wire and then putting it straight in, I use these here. So they're bootlace ferrules, sometimes called bootlace lugs. Let me just show you how these work. So you strip the end of your cable and you want to have it the same length or slightly longer than the actual silver part on these bootlace. Slide this on like so, nice and tight. And then there's a special crimping tool, which is basically a 4 or a 6 jaw crimper. You can see there those jaws sort of squeezing right down. I'll be able to see it a bit easier there. They crimp around in a six-sided way. So if I crimp this down now, you can see that there is really tight. You won't get that off because you can see there's also multiple sort of tight spots where it basically crimps on. So in this case, my crimper does 5 crimps along the length of that ferrule, and there's an awesome way to hold and protect the cables from going into like just an open joiner. So this little joiner here, you just feed that straight in and screw down onto this part of the ferrule, and you've got something that'll hold on really, really well. There's a couple of things I don't like about these. One is it leaves the ends of the wire exposed at the very end here, so theoretically you can get moisture wicking up the end, and also it's not heat shrink, so you're not going to seal up that back end. So a couple of ways that you can deal with this is get some liquid electrical tape and just dip the end in it so you can seal up just this end part, and then just standard heat shrink and you can put it over the back end to seal that up. It's a real pain having to do that on these because they're such a cool little tool. I've not come across, and I have hunted, but I've not come across bootlace ferrules like this that have a heat shrink. They're a closed end at this end and then a heat shrink component at this end. I think if you could find something like that, or if you could make someone, if you're out there and you make these sorts of things, dear God, put some, you know, heat shrink on the end of them. I think that would be an amazing product. But, you know, for a boat, if you've got nothing and this is all you've got, they work pretty well. All right, I think I have everything I need in order to finish this job. So the light at the back is incandescent because this shade here, the light will be in a specific place, and you've got these two physical hard sides that once assembled like that, the light is only available through a very specific arc, 112.5 degrees. That's part of what we have to work on. The other part is connecting up the wires. Now this specific light has this essentially waterproofing mechanism, which is pretty cool. I'm just not 100% confident I'm going to get the wires through it, but basically what it is a rubber grommet with like a wedge tapered edge so that you can push it through this hole, so you get a seal. It gets pushed through from the back like so, and these hang out in the light itself, just so that you've got a long sort of sheathing. I just am not 100% confident that this wire is actually going to fit, because this is pretty big wire given that we've got such a long cable run. So we might have to do something a little bit fancy on that just to be certain. I want to zip tie around this as my mechanism to hold the cables sort of where I want them to be. I do want to come back and put conduit over all of this, but I don't have any conduit that's going to be the right size, and I don't want to do another run into town just for conduit, so it is something I can add later, so I will do that. I've got these two cables in, they're very big, so we had to get a bit creative up here, make sure it all fit. I've heat shrunk all of the connections onto the cable as well as as best I can anyway onto the terminal without sort of melting it. You can sort of see over that side there, you can see it's got a little bit dark on the cable itself. Just had to be a bit careful. Now I need to assemble the rest of this stuff and then put it on. It's pretty straightforward. That just sits down there like that, light bulb in, and then that long screw you can see there, that screws onto the plastic base just up at the top here. There we go. Apart from the conduit that needs to go over the conductors, that one is finished. You can sort of see the angle it sits on. In an ideal world, I would have liked to have had that sort of further back here, because then you can get all the way around it when you're working on it. However, it's fine where it is. That'll do. It'll get us insurance and we can move on to the next thing on the list. Just to be sure that it actually works, we should probably do a bit of a look-see. I think we'll call that a win.
It's an Australian outlook, if ever there was one. Flat. Why we are on the road is to go and pick up our new crew member, getting closer to launch. So let me tell you about this new crew member. So we haven't said anything to anyone because we weren't sure it was going to work out, and we've been waiting for a long time to get the right crew member. You know, that's a big part of it, because there's a lot to kind of consider in this decision. But we're on our way to meet in person for the first time. So we're going to take you on this little journey. It's 7 o'clock. It takes me about an hour to get ready to go anywhere because of my leg. I don't know if you can see how I've got my leg jammed in there. This is my sublocated and apparently I was told the other day occasionally dislocated leg, which is not healing because of my connective tissue disorder. The tissues, the collagen and all of that doesn't heal like a normal person. The pain's way manageable now. It's brilliant. So I'm on the sort of uptick. Nervous to meet them, but at the same time, no, we'll get on really well. You know, you just get a feeling about about a new crew member. You really do.
He seems pretty cool.
Does. We'll take you on this journey with us. Look at that tree line.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yep, this is definitely the road that I drove down to pick up the jet ski.
Awesome. You and Rod when you went and picked it up?
Yeah, me and Rod. We just kept driving, we were like, okay, well the map's not stopping.
Two Kiwis trying to drive around Australia.
Bloody Australia, eh? Oh, it must just be a couple of suburbs over.
You look on the map and it looks like it's only a centimetre or something.
Yeah.
New Zealand is very different. Everything is twisty and windy and hills and
If
gullies.
this was New Zealand, there'd be a caravan in front of us.
That's right.
A Maui camper van, driving at about 45 kilometres an hour.
That's
and then
right.
Speeding up to about 145 on the passing lanes.
Exactly. It's a Kiwi tradition.
Yeah.
So funny.
Must remain in front. Camper van panels flying off. Steering wheel holding off.
Feathers in my hair and braids around my waist. I'm almost a bird. These mountain views and pink sunsets got me shedding skin. Ooh, we all strive to be more.
Travel across the country for the right crew member.
Definitely.
Get grass.
I know.
No one's spraying along here. So good. God, I bet that's nutritious for the animals. That was my knee, by the way. Wasn't me.
And the air fills up my lungs and it tickles. Oh, what a joyful feeling. I think I'm gonna stay here under all these rays and soak up the sun. Ooh, we long for viva.
Okay, from here on in, to maintain people's privacy, we're going to go incognito, over and out. After this, there may be a third being in this car. So do you know we don't need crew member? This is Snoopy, or known as Snoop Dogg.
Hello, Fluffy Pants.
So he's just said goodbye to his mum and he's with us. She had to rehome him because of circumstances in her life, and we knew we wanted to get another four-legged beastie for our boat, and we wanted a resilient dog and a gorgeous natured dog, and Snoopy's it. So this is all new to us, so we're gonna drive home now and have a bit of a chat with him, and we'll get him comfortable on board, and there's a lot for him to learn. So
Some are mistakes, and we grow from what breaks us. We let it take its time. We long for viva la vida. Around the corner of each other.
and this is the road back home. Lovely being in the
The mountain, well, no.
Mountain.
Sorry. I'm
hill,
so sorry.
hillock roads,
Hills, bumps, that sort of thing.
bump roads.
Yeah.
Sorry Australians, we are quite biased.
I don't know what came over me, I'm so sorry.
He's pretty relaxed. The moment of changing homes is such a big transition that he's pretty cruisy. We've been talking about training and getting him a harness rather than a choker chain. We want him in a harness. So he's great. If we just give him space, he sort of corrects himself, and just tell him only a couple of times not to do something, and he's great. So right now he's attached to the back seat. we'll sort out all those sort of details in the next couple of weeks. It's lovely. He's had a chip, and he's had some apple.
A chip?
A chip?
You're a chip, bro.
What a chip, bro? As in a chop? Yeah, chip. A potato chop. This one, chip, a chip.
He's had lots of water. And he's a little bit bored in the back there, but mostly he's pretty good. His first trip home. Snoop, doggy, doggy. Ah, look at you, little Snoop doggy. You're so gorgeous. He's your mom. You're gorgeous, dog. You're gorgeous. Almost there.
In 600 metres, turn right onto Clayton Siding Road.
Righto.
GPS, darling. We're heading straight to the pet shop because we want to get Snoop a new harness and some food, stuff like that.
A bit lighter and freer. I'm so happy to see you. Viva la vida. Around the corner I'll meet you. Viva la vida. A bit lighter and freer. I'm so happy to see you.
Back in the shrine, this is the job I've been trying to get to. Batteries! I need to mount them because apparently sitting them on a couple of blocks of pine is not structural enough.
But that's next week with the last of the insurance jobs before we apply. Let's hope we get it. See you next week.
You got ice like summer sky.